A disappointing Friday night loss for the New York Yankees as they fall 3-2 to the worst team in Major League Baseball, who get their 9th win of the season, the Colorado Rockies. Look, I'm about to get on a plane here in a few hours, so I'm going to keep this brief, short, and sweet because that's really all this game deserves right now. You know, Judge, he goes 2 for 4. Hits his first home run in Coors Field in his first game at Coors Field. And that was really about it, aside from a Paul Goldschmidt RBI triple. Just not a good game for the Yankees. Not really a good game in general to watch. I watched every pitch of this game, and I wouldn't say it was boring. It just was a pretty uneventful game. Clarke Schmidt looked okay on the mound. It definitely looked like his breaking stuff, his cutter in particular, was not cutting well. You saw a few times, it was mentioned on the broadcast, but you saw a lot of his cutters just kind of hanging up in the middle of the zone, or sometimes inside when they were attempted to be cutters away, particularly to right-handed batters. It just did not seem like he had, despite the fact he had 8 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings. It just didn't look like he had his best stuff in general. It did not look like he had the best command of his pitches. His final line, he'll take the loss here. His final line's 4 2/3, 6 hits, 2 walks, 3 earned runs, 8 strikeouts. 2 of those 3 earned runs came when Tim Hill was brought into the game. And I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but I'm afraid that the clock has struck midnight on Tim Hill. He's now, I know technically he is not charged with any runs in this game, but he comes in with 2 outs in the 5th inning and gives up an extra base hit for 2, a 2-run extra base hit off the top of the wall. And, so like you look at his outing and you look at his box score, you see 1 in the 3rd innings, 1 hit, no runs. You're like, that was a pretty good outing, but it really wasn't. He bounced back in the 6th and was good there, but, they needed him to get Ryan McMahon, the lefty, when they brought him in. And, that entire 5th inning is really when things, you can see it in the box scores when things really went off the rails for the Yankees. They were up 1-0 and then 2-1 in this game heading into the bottom of the 5th. And then it definitely looked like after getting those first 2 outs of the inning that Clarke Schmidt was running out of gas. And, he ends up getting a quick pop out and a strikeout of Amador and Beck, and then things starts to labor a bit. He ended up getting, even in that Beck at bat, it looked like at times that it was like, all right, he's getting near the end. Gives up a single to Ezekiel Tovar, another single to Hunter Goodman, and that's when Tim Hill comes into face Ryan McMahon, who doubled in that. But It's just a disappointing game because there is such a massive talent disparity between these two teams. And as I mentioned on Friday's podcast, you can look at a series and you should say on paper that the Yankees should come in and sweep. I still think the Yankees should have come in and sweep. They're clearly not physically able to do that now. They've already lost the first game of the series, and so now you're just hoping you take both weekend games, you take 2 of 3 and make your way to Southern California for the next week. But just disappointing. You're not going to freak out. You're not going to overreact. If they would have lost one of the games to Texas, look, this feels like a coping mechanism. But like, if you look at it and you said, if they would have taken 2 of 3 against Texas instead of sweeping them, and then they take the first game of the series, it's ultimately the same result. But these are games they shouldn't lose, man. I know it's on the road. I know you went cross-country and you didn't have an off day in between. And that's difficult. And I understand that, the flight that I'm going to get on to, later this morning, is going to be a little bit of a different travel experience than you would have if you play for the New York Yankees. So I'm not pretending, like they're sitting, Aaron Judge is not sitting in a middle seat and coach on his way to Colorado from New York City. Like I understand that, but it is tough. But at the end of the day, I'm not disappointed that they gave up 3 runs and 8 hits in this game. You're going to give up some opportunities in Coors Field, not just runs, but with just the size of the outfield and the altitude and the warm weather, like the ball's going to get down. There are going to be hard hits in this game. Only getting 2 runs and 5 hits yourself? A little disappointing. And, you've got, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are just 2 extra base hits in this game, and that would be Aaron Judge's home run and Paul Goldschmidt's triple. Obviously, they scored on both of those occasions, but, other than those 2 at-bats, the Yankees went 3 for 28 with 4 walks, and all 3 of them being singles. A Judge single, a Jason Dominguez single, and then an Austin Wells infield single. But just very disappointing. There was Austin Wells also had a really tough, I guess both Austin Wells and then Aaron Judge, both really tough grounded and double plays in this game, and opportunities that you really thought they were going to break the game open, and they weren't able to do it. But overall, just not enough from the offense. Really not enough from the offense. Schmidt did not look great. Tim Hill did not look great. Yerry Dos Santos and Brett Hedrick, who pitched the final 2 innings, were perfectly fine, but really not a lot to write home about in this game. Really disappointing, and we're starting to kind of see a little bit, as we look back here, a little bit of regression from Trent Grisham and Ben Rice at the top of the lineup, which is hurting. Grisham goes in this game, he goes 0 for 3 with a walk. Ben Rice goes 0 for 4. Grisham's down to a 261 batting average, Ben Rice to 245. Both, Grisham's still above a 900 OPS, but Ben Rice has slipped below that mark now. He's at, where is he at? 858 at the moment. So again, nothing. You're not panicking, but given the struggles the Yankees have had in the bottom half of their lineup pretty consistently, having both Grisham and Rice kind of being in a little bit of a lull right now has really just left all the offense up to Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt, and it wasn't enough here in Colorado. So let's hope they get a bounce-back effort. They're going to have a lefty on the mound against them, Kyle Freeland, who's 0-6 with a 5.68 ERA, on the mound against their ace, Max Fried. I think this is a pretty simple mission. You cannot lose this game, period. End of story. Your ace versus a winless Kyle Freeland, left-handed pitcher, not going to happen. Just you have to win this game. Like you got to win this game, and you got to win the game on Sunday as well. Now, like you've put yourself in a scenario where all these games count the same. Whether you're playing great teams, you're playing bad teams, so you better win the ones against the bad teams. And then on Sunday they'll have Will Warren on the mound against Antonio Sanzatella. So. I will be back on Monday morning to recap what should be, fingers crossed, hopefully, 2 consecutive wins to bounce back and at least keep the series win streak alive before you head to Southern California. But disappointing effort on Friday night. Hopefully they give the Yankees fans a lot more to be excited about here on Memorial Day weekend.